at the old Zoe's Road hyena den, which has collapsed under the rain, but the lion tracks came into this area and they haven't come out, so we think they are very, very close. Taxon's going back to last tracks where they come in, but we're gonna now zoot towards where he is. We think the lions are probably quite close to where those last tracks went off the road. We've done the loop-de-loops around the block to make sure they haven't got out, and it looks like they must be just below us here somewhere. Okay, and you can see this old hyena den road hasn't been used in so long. It's become quite bumpy and quite overcrowded, so we've got to go a bit slowly through here. At least this is soft. Oh, bumpity bump. Now, I'm not sure which lions these are, and at the moment, you sort of never know which lions might pop out. Oh, some. Oh, just, let me just, sorry, 1 second. Tax, confirm I must come Philemon Zoe's or come down Rebecca's. Okay. It sounds like Tax has found them, so let's get there. So very close to where the tracks went off the road. Bouncity, bouncity, bounce. Now, the great mystery of which lions they are. Hashtag Safari Live. Guess, is it the Nkuhumas? Is it a Birmingham? Is it the Evokers? Is it unknown lions, Talamati? Or is it Torchwood or Styx? Who knows? They came from the east, that's all we know. And I've been checking on the periphery, so I actually haven't looked at the tracks properly. So I don't even know if it's males or females or whatnot. So everyone, let's have a guess. Hashtag Safari Live. Which lions are we going to see? Vim, do you want to take a guess? Vim says Birmingham boys. I say... Oh, pressure! Evokers. I don't know. Actually, I don't know. It could be females. Actually, no, I'm changing. It's not Evokers. I think it's Nkuhumas. I think it's Nkuhumas. That doesn't make any sense. David and David, the new coalition on the block. VM, do you know what FC are talking about? No? Okay, me neither. Okay, we're getting close now. Dum dum dum. Dum dum dum. It'll all be revealed shortly. Okay, so I wasn't on drive yesterday afternoon. I did a town trip, and David and David apparently were roaring, and they are the new coalition. Oh, they better be careful, otherwise I might have cut my mane, but my roar is still there. And I think, you know, I don't need a coalition buddy to take them out. Okay. Who on earth have we got here? It looks to to be Nkuhumarish to me. What do you think, Vim? Nkuhumas. YT viewer indeed, the Oompa Loompas. And oh, they've walked. Is it them? Looks like them, but it might not be the full pride. Morning. But there's the little boy. We'll do a head count shortly. But it does look to be the Nkuhumas. And not very far away from where we saw the Talamati females a few days ago. So there is absolute pandemonium in the lion dynamics at the moment with the movements, with the new males coming in. And a big pile of lions. Can't see if they're too hungry or not just yet. But it looks like they are enjoying a bit of morning sunshine. I'm just going to try and move around the other side of tax so we can try to do a proper count of how many Oompa Loompas there are. Okay, well, it seems like Catterday is living up to its name, so let's send you back to Tingana.
Yes, well, hopefully, whoever that is that Brent is about to find is being a little bit more active this morning than this Duke of Djuma. And I believe that all of you, well, most of you out there have voted and the polls are in. And you think we should announce it, Bex? Have we given it enough time? We'll give it 2 more minutes. So those of you who've been making your coffee and who have faith in the Tingana, please send through your votes as soon as you possibly can. And let's see what you think. Who would win in a battle? Tingana, the old Duke of Djuma, or Hukumuri, the chicken medicine? Doesn't sound so frightening now, does he? Jan, I've never seen a female leopard with a dewlap. I think it's mainly a male thing. I could be mistaken, but I've never seen one. It's such a noticeable thing on a male. You could just see the neck. It's just an enormous, thick neck. And it's not necessarily the actual throat itself, but it's the dewlap hanging down. And I've never seen a female. It's always got very elegant sort of lines around the jaw, over the chin. You know, very similar to sort of the human race, you know, where females are inclined to have more of a sort of delicate jawline versus the masculine, very sort of strong masculine jawline. And it's as a response to fighting. I mean, I know female leopards do fight as well, but male leopards do encompass more females in their territories, and they want to maybe avoid confrontation. A male leopard having a fight with another male leopard is an enormous feat of strength, claws, teeth, fur, and energy, and so they do avoid it if they can. That is why I am sure neither of these two rivals are calling. As much as we'd like to see some interaction, if a proper fight happened between the two, it could be the last for either one of them, depending on the injuries that are brought upon in each individual. So I think it's been nearly 2 minutes. Bex, are you going to give me the final tally on the poll there? Dun dun dun. Holy whack. Ladies and gentlemen have just turned the tables in the last 2 minutes of this discussion. There is an overwhelming 51% for Tingana. Well, the old Duke, I hope you're happy to hear that you are 51% versus 49%. And we're probably going to stay with him for one more segment. But while we stay here and do our thing, let's go over to James, who's scratching in the sand like a guinea fowl.
Well, it wasn't me scratching in the sand. It was what we call in the local Shangaan language, fundla, which is a scrub hare. And let me point it out with my grass stalk here. I shall not attempt to use my torch again. There you have the hocks of the scrub hare. So that's basically the equivalent of your ankle joint, but obviously on a scrub hare much longer. So that's where it was resting. Its buttocks were over here. Hopefully not a strained left one like I have. And that's where its feet were. Back feet, probably, and then the front feet just kind of in front there. And he was sitting staring into the grass here. I'm not sure what he was staring into the grass for, but it was clearly something interesting. I'm very pleased to find that the poll is going along with my general sentiment, my hope that Tingana will give the young usurper a bit of a smack around the ears, and perhaps that they will be able to share very nicely this area that was once, of course, the exclusive domain of Tingana the male leopard. Then there was a spider crawling on me. That has gone away, and now, while you go over to the lions, I must defend myself from the parasite that is now going to try and suck my blood.
Well, be careful, James. Be careful. They're very fast-moving, those ticks. Now, something that's not very fast-moving at the moment is the Nkuhumas pride. As you can see, they are in a lovely cat pile. Now, it is due to the cold weather. You will notice in the mornings that lions will often lie closer to each other and try eke out some body warmth from each other. However, depending on the situation, it's not uncommon to find lions lying on top of each other, but they do seem to form tighter little bundles during the winter months. I'm just trying to remember, Heidi, when was this male born? Was he 2000 and... What year are we in, VM? 18?
Yeah, I think.
So he would be 2016. So probably just around... I'm trying to remember when they were all born. About 2 years old, just over 2 years old. There we go. Now, for those of you who've been watching for a while, you might remember Junior of the Nkuhumas. There we go. So he's just under 2 years old, June 2016. So that's when he was born. Now, you might remember Junior of the Nkuhumas. Now, Junior was very similar to this poor young chap, the only male amongst a whole bunch of ladies. And he happened to be sort of closer to 3 years old when the Birmingham boys came in. And because of the fact that there was a pride changeover, he actually spent more time with his moms and his sisters and his cousins and his aunties than he would have if there'd been a stable coalition in charge. So because of the turmoil with new males taking over, that Junior was able to spend more time with the pride. And we might be looking at a similar situation now, unless, of course, he gets caught by the evokers. Okay, he's caught something on the air, having a good sniff. A sniff and a snooze at the same time. So I must admit, I'm quite happy to be with the lions, doing the exact same thing, basking in the sun. It's been chilly this morning. Now, I did get a head count a little bit earlier, and it does look like all 11 are present, although it is always difficult to discern each individual lion when they're in a puddle like this. Bab, we don't have any tracking devices on any of the lion prides in the area. We do it the old-fashioned way. We follow their footprints. Now, there's various different reasons to put tracking devices on animals, and in the Sabi signs it's not really necessary, as we are able to find them by tracking them on foot or in the vehicles quite easily. And there's no current, well, there are current research projects going on, but none of them need radio collars. Now, one must realize that radio collars are a bit of a double-edged sword. Yes, they produce incredible data and whatnot, but each time you anesthetize an animal, there is always a risk that they won't wake up, particularly with the older individuals. Although the latest tracking collars have come on in leaps and bounds in terms of they have a timer that pops off when the battery gets to a certain point. But one of the biggest threats, especially if you collar younger animals, is the fact that they grow quite quickly. And if you don't have those release collars that either release when the battery gets low or when there's a certain amount of pressure put on the collar, you can actually hurt the animals. So in an area like this, where it's not necessary to collar the animals to keep following them, we are able to follow them most of the time without losing them. We do lose them for a day or two, but that can also happen when they've got collars. Oh, here we go. Are you getting a bit hot? Oh dear, they are hungry. So I couldn't see whether they were hungry or not, but they are indeed very hungry. There we go. She's got a bit warm, heading towards the shade. Slowly over the morning, I think we'll see most of the lions migrate to go lie on top of her in that tiny bit of shade. And you can always tell where lion pride has been because of how flattened the grass is, and there's almost no gap between where the lion's been lying because of how flat the grass is. But we're going to sit here with the incredible Nkuhumas and send you across to James, who's got something minute on a plant.
What we have here is another predator, obviously a much smaller predator, and this one a less colourful one than the ones we're mostly used to, but it is a flower mantid of some sort. And you can see it is sitting on, a very famous flower about these parts, the hibiscus micrantha. And it is a gorgeous example of a flower mantid, but not as colourful, as I say, as the ones that we normally find on the Waltheria bushes. Isn't she lovely? Now, I'm assuming she's a flower mantid, not the sawtooth flowered mantid, but a flower mantid because of that sort of leaf-shaped abdomen that she has. And she's very patiently waiting upside down for some prey to come along. So not only do the insects have to worry about the birds coming to eat them, they also have to worry about each other. Oh, she's cleaning her antenna. You see that? She's doing her morning toilet, Craig. Have you got that? She's just let it go. She was holding her antenna. Never mind. She's just cleaning them. Insects are fastidious quite often about cleaning their antenna. I know we did an experiment at university with cockroaches to count how many times in a minute they cleaned their antenna. Fascinating study it was, really just mind-blowing stuff. Anyway, it was quite a few times. Ooh. Heidi, you says it's the same as a praying mantis. Yes, it is a praying mantis. It's just a different kind of... all mantises, I guess, could be known as praying mantises or mantids. This one is more specifically a flower mantid of some description. Then, on the stick above, there is the kind of fly, the likes of which horror movies are made, or the likes of which horror movies inspire, should I say. Let me point with this piece of grass. Look over there, Craig. See that thing? That is called a robber fly. Isn't it disgusting? I know I'm not allowed to say that as a guide, but really, it's a fairly disgusting creature. They're predatory. So they too, rather like the flower mantid, will try and eat other insects. Isn't it quite intimidating? It'll give you a nasty bite if you get too much in its way. He's got a lovely cream-coloured beard. He's got sort of lion's mane on him. I wonder if we can get a look at that. You see his lion's mane there? And the rest of him designed a little bit like a fighter jet, I suppose, poised to take off and grab some poor thing quietly going about his autumnal feeding. So that is the robber fly. He's about an inch long. I'll put my finger next to him. Yes, Ross, it is indeed a massive fly. As you say, you wouldn't want a swarm of them swooping down on you. As I was saying as well, the type of stuff that horror movies are made of. But I think we'll leave the robber fly and the mantid. The one advantage, as I was saying about the couth, is that, of course, these animals are immobile at this time of the morning, unable to move in the couth. We're going now towards Chalapan, see what we can find there. We were all just commenting on the fact that clearly the Nkuhumas have not managed to find that buffalo around here. If they do, the buffalo will, as Herbert says, no doubt famba xquemvu.
So Herbie's saying the buffalo would famba xquem if they were found by the Nkuhumas, and they look like they could definitely do with the buffalo. They are very hungry at the moment. And you can see, Shame, the little boy, is so hungry he's taken to eating sticks. No, I'm just joking, he's just playing. But it's more of just a playing, like a dog chews on a stick or anything like that. He's not trying to eat the stick. But yes, they do look like they haven't had a good meal in a few days. And the last place I saw that lone buffalo bull was not too far from here. He was on Treehouse Dam Road last night, so yes, not too far from here, a little bit to the south of us. In the same block there and now, in the same big thick patch of bush, we did see quite a nice big group of kudu, which would also go down quite well. I think they are hoping for the drier months, which should bring the buffalo back from the Manyeleti and from the south into this area to feed off the grasses. And as we know, buffalo are the Nkuhumas' favourites. Oh, next one, off to the shade. And so as I said, slowly but surely we can watch all these lions move into the shade as it gets warmer today. Oh dear, you just moved a pillow. It looks like, yes, the oldest lioness, the one with the wound on her hip. These two just to the left of her look like they are in the most comfortable position possible. Both of them look just very content. Now, it's always very complicated with lions, Shelley. So, yes, there's a strong likelihood that the Birmingham boys are fathers of the sub-adults, but other males will sneak in and mate, and in certain prides you can have nearly 40% of the lion cubs being born to those nomadic males, and they have, well, the pride males or coalition males have no idea that it happened. So it is likely that the Birmingham boys are fathers of most of them, but it is possible that some of them have been born to nomadic males that the females have mated with. And well, we're going to stick with our puddle of kitties. Let's send you back to James, because it's time to rut.
Well, it's certainly time for some to rut. Those are impala that are rutting, of course. And they're alarm calling at each other and at us. They saw us coming through the bush like a stealthy pride of lions, and now they're hiding. And I'm pretty sure that they've been locked in fairly mortal combat until we arrived and disturbed them, and now they're sort of taking comfort in the fact that they're both impala, and following each other and then getting too close to one another and then deciding they should have a fight. Anyway, they've obviously decided they no longer wish to be part of our Saturday morning show. So here we are at Chelapan. Nchela is a frog in Shangaan, unsurprisingly. This is where frogs are in the summertime, and in the winter not so much. And we're a little bit at a loss as to what to focus our attention on at the moment, given that the lions have been found, and he's got Tinganas in the grass somewhere, and who knows where Hukumuri is. Maybe we'll be lucky with Hosana as we continue. And plenty of terrapin tracks around here still. And here, Lorna, is an animal that would do very poorly in a drought. That is a terrapin track. You can just see the little claws there that I've marked with my stick. Lorna, I suppose the animal that would do best in a drought out here would be those that are desert adapted. So in South Africa, those would be things like springbok, gemsbok, animals which live in drier areas than we do here. You get the desert-adapted elephants of Namibia that survive almost with no water whatsoever. I mean, they do get some water, but I mean, they do on very little. Kudu are very good in the dry. So in this particular area where it's not that dry in comparison with the rest of southern Africa, those animals that straddle both kind of, what shall we say, rainfall regions would survive best. So kudu do well in drought if they can find enough to eat. Impala not very well. There's something else I'm thinking of. What does leopards? Leopards will do well in a drought. They don't have to drink. Lions don't have to drink too much, but leopards especially are predators that don't have to consume a great deal of water. There's a greater blue-eared glossy starling up there. You see it there? It's that blue starling. It's there, on the leadwood tree there, Craig. Can you see it? Yes. Yes, it's because I'm so tall that I saw it and you didn't. Good. Beautiful. To Tawny.
Well, slowly but surely, the puddle is breaking up. The young male's just moved off to sleep off on his own as well. And the lion pillow moved, so she's lifted her head for a second, but I wonder if she's going to pop it back down on the lioness. No. Or spoon, rather. Now, Jared's buddy, I'm not sure whether this young male will be named and when. I'm honestly not sure. I think Junior just became a nickname that happened. It wasn't planned or anything like that. But it's possible because he is the only male. He will get a name. Shame, these guys are looking hungry. Probably hoping for something to stumble into them while they're snoozing here in the grass. You can see they're quite nervy at the moment. There's Amber. So there was a herd of kudu not too far off from here. I wonder if they... No, I thought they might be taking interest in... Possibly not, but it looks like they're just going to flop down again. Now, the line dynamics at the moment are, as we know, quite complicated, and there's lots of chasing and whatnot all about between the Vokers, the Birminghams. I hear rumours of another coalition coming in from Kruger around Nkuhumas. So I don't know much about that. I've just heard rumours of it. I don't know if it's true, or I don't know if it's not. But the interesting thing with lions is that, particularly in this area, they definitely have summer and winter ranges. So during the summer months, they do spend less time on Djuma. They tend to spend more time in the north, where there seems to be a higher buffalo and zebra population at that time of the year. But as it gets drier and we start getting more and more buffalo herds through this area, as well as the zebra coming back and the wildebeest, the Nkuhumas winter range is normally more around Djuma, especially centered around the area between Buffelshoek Dam and the Gari Dam, or the Vuyatela Dam. So it is great to see them back here, and I'll show you where they are. And they've covered a big distance. Do you have a... I've got my cloth here for cleaning the car. That'll do. It's got some dust on it. Oh, sticky. Okay. So, let me get to my bound. Okay, here we go. So they came in here at Chile Cut Line Central, and they went down like this and popped out on Mamba at the Moati. They went onto Elephant Carcass and then cut through the block to Weaver's Nest, then changed their mind, thankfully for us, and went through here, popped out again at Philemon's Dip, and we're now just off Rebecca's Road here. Oh, Amber's up. Now, one of the others is going to do. You see, they are a bit nervy at the moment. Every time someone stands up, a few heads come up. And so slowly but surely they are going to move into the shade. Is this the next one? Heading for the shade. For me, this morning's felt like the first real proper winter morning. Real bite in the air. And the sounds and the smells are definitely leaning more towards winter and the end of summer. And it's amazing how quickly the bush has changed. Now, as a general rule, winter is far more of an easier time for the lions in particular, as the buff herds are back around and losing condition after the long summer. They've been picking up condition, eating all the lovely green grass, but as you get deeper and deeper into the dry season, the quality of the food the buffalo are eating is not as good. But that makes the buffalo a little bit easier for the lions to catch. We're going to stick it out with our lovely Nkuhumas, and let's go see if the Duke is thinking about going for a stroll.
Well, I think a stroll is the last thing on Tingana's mind at the moment. He popped his head up a moment ago, gave us a little look of his beautiful eyes. I just saw his ear flick, but other than that, he is motionless. And this will probably be our last segment with him, unless he decides to get up and start moving while we are talking now, we might give him a few more minutes, but he has done nothing in half an hour. I think it's been about that long. And the chances are, as the day is starting to get warmer, even though there's a bit of cloud that's pulled in, and the clouds are covering the sun, it's suddenly got a little bit cooler, which is quite nice. There they are. They're moving in from who knows where. And the jackets I took off might need to come back on again. But to give you an idea of where we are in relation to where Brent is, I've got my map out, my faithful trusty map, and we are going to use a lilac-breasted roller feather because I think that's a very pretty sort of thing. So here is the dam, Vuetela Dam, and this is where Tingana was seen on the dam cam. We then found him. He was just this drainage line here, crisscrossing this for a period of time, and we're probably about over here at the moment, somewhere there to be exact. And where Brent is over there, somewhere there by the sounds of it on the radio, just between Philemon's Dip and Rebecca's Road. So as the crow flies, not very far at all in relation. So the Nkuhumas have come back in. Who knows where they've come from. It's just marvelous how we could spend our entire afternoon yesterday in the area and tracking, and then as we wake up in the morning, there they are, materialized back right in the middle, or the heart of Djuma. This is one of the core areas of their pride territories, should I say. And what is going on with the lion dynamics at the moment is very interesting, with the Birminghams coming through, just the two of them, looking very battle-scarred as they then disappeared all the way back down south, probably about 7-8 kilometers south again, to join their two brothers down in the south. And as Brent and I were discussing last night, if they had encountered the evokers, because they looked like they encountered something, if they encountered the evokers and had won, they would have been calling with all their fury the success of that endeavor. But we didn't hear a peep out of them, except for a few groans as they lay on the ground or fell on their sides. That was about as much energy as they expended in the way of making any sound. And the same goes for the leopards. They are not calling. So what is going on? I do not know. But it seems like there is no cloud cover where Brent and the Nkuhumas are. Let's go and see if they're going to move into the shade.
Well, only 1, 2, 3, 4 left in the original pile, with one contemplating getting up at the moment. Now, as you can see, they're very skinny, but lions do digest their meat very fast, Chilean. So they've got a very fast digestive system, and so it enables them to eat and get rid of the meat in a very, very quick... Oh, it's trying to bite flies. It gets you on the nose. Something puts her on the nose. So it's just because they've got a very fast digestive system. High protein diets. Oof, battling with the hohos. And they're not really under threat at the moment. Now, they are thin, but they're by no means in starvation mode just yet, White Lady Avon, so it shouldn't hamper their hunting at the moment. I think they'd be pretty keen to hunt, and actually probably more focused on hunting at the moment while being hungry. So I don't think it will affect their hunting at all. But they would love to find a nice herd of buffalo. Now, as I was saying, a nice plump buffalo cat, that would do it. We'll feed them all very well for a couple of days, providing that it wasn't robbed by the evokers. But yes, a large kudu would feed them, but they wouldn't all be full. But they would definitely be in a bit of a better state than this. But a buffalo, a giraffe, hippo, any of those really big animals would do quite well for the pride at the moment. But the Nkuhumas are buffalo specialists, still battling with something that keeps nipping her. If only if she bites it and it stings her on the tongue. Now, Ryan, all lions use cooperative hunting techniques, but I wouldn't say they herd animals. They use a lot of non-verbal communication, visual communication, cues by body language and ear flicks and tails to sort out their hunts on who must go where. But they don't herd animals at all, but they do cooperative hunting. That is what makes them so successful. And being cooperative hunters, they're able to take down much bigger prey than if they were just by themselves. Now, what we've got to remember that these are wild animals, and sometimes we do get very attached to them and wouldn't think they would do horrible things. But White Lady Aowen, yes, lions would cannibalize each other in times of stress. Lionesses have been recorded eating their small cubs rather than trying to hunt enough and produce enough milk to keep all alive. Survival is the most important. Now, they wouldn't actively go out and hunt a member of the pride, but if the member of the pride got killed by another lion or by a buffalo during a hunt, then they would indeed cannibalize if they were desperate enough. It doesn't happen all the time, but male lions are far more regular cannibals of other lions than the lionesses. But lionesses have been recorded eating their own cubs in times of strife. Oh, well, I think the ones out in the sun have a bit of a gap, or a little bit longer to lie there, because the sun has disappeared behind this cloud that's creeping in from the north, big cloud bank. But now we're going to keep sitting with the Nkuhumas. I'm loving sitting here. I haven't seen them properly in quite a while. And in the meantime, I'll send you across to James and something you definitely don't want to find in your shorts.
No, you definitely don't want this in your shorts, everybody. You'll have a great itchiness in places where it is publicly unacceptable to scratch. A caterpillar of some description. I'm not sure what species it is. It does look quite like the lens, though. You'll notice if I bring it close, it tends to sort of leap towards it, unless you tell it to leap towards it, in which case it doesn't. It is a lovely mass of interesting colours. Doesn't know where he's going anymore, you see. He's quite sweet. He looks almost like a sort of long teddy bear. I don't know what he's going to become, what moth, what butterfly. Doesn't like the smell of my hand. And we found him coming across the road. Craig nearly squished him. And I suspect, unfortunately, that he might be a little bit late. That he's a late-season caterpillar that will be quite lucky to make it to adulthood. Let's hope he finds sufficient to eat and can become a moth. Yes, Yes, it's a really good way of putting it, R. Larimer. You say he looks like an Albert Einstein caterpillar. He does indeed. Let's see if he'll crawl over my hand. Oh. See how brave I am, Craig.
So brave.
So brave. The sacrifices I make. Now, in theory, I mean, I've done this often and it really doesn't hurt the skin. Anna Marie, you say don't touch the hairs. I think if I was to squash the hairs, that would be very unpleasant. But to just put them, let him walk across you like that, doesn't seem to make a difference. Put him down your shirt, however, and let him rub on the soft skin of your back. That'll be a different matter entirely. That black thing he's crawling over, of course, is my hairband, just in case I want to tie the fringe out of my face. Good. Right, let's put him back. We'll put him across the road so that the next person with a size 12 that comes along doesn't stand on him. And as Rebecca says, we could probably tie the caterpillar's fringe off his face with my little hairband. Get off, come on. Your time on my stick is now over. Your fame is finished. Good luck. May you become a moth or butterfly, make eggs, and fulfill your evolutionary purpose and your Darwinian, your Darwinian purpose, really. Let's move on. We're just checking these pans, see what's going on here. Haven't found anything so far. Wondering if that buffalo isn't perhaps going to blunder from one of these pans into the Nkuhumas pride. Because no doubt they will devour him if they can find him. Here is our very last pan where you can see Herbert has been resting quietly. We'll carry on from here, and I believe that Stephen has left the sleeping kitty.
Tingana, he's absolutely nothing. That's okay. That happens. We can never predict what's going to happen. Well, it seems like we're in a bad signal area, so let's go over to Brent, who's probably in a much better area than we are.
Well, it seems like Steve's found some gremlins. We're still sitting here with our incredible Nkuhumas, and they have spread out and are sleeping heavily, but they are hungry and it's a cool day ahead, so they could get moving early this afternoon. But I think for the most they're going to snooze away the rest of the day. I was going to move around. Let's try to see where the others went. So some of them have moved off behind this beautiful dead knobthorn. So there's a pile that's just moved behind. Now, one of the lions in that little pile there is the little boy. Mishman is wondering, will the females kick out the sub-adult male? They will get stroppy with him, but you must remember, by that stage of 3 years old, he is bigger than them already and stronger than them. So it can be quite difficult for the females to get rid of him, and sometimes they'll just try to run away. But that's why normally those young males are pushed out by the dominant coalition. And as I say, with the current line dynamics, he might get lucky. He might be able to stay with his natal pride for a little bit longer than he would have if the Birminghams were around constantly. What happens is there's always the risk that he might mate with his sisters or his mom if he does spend too much time with the pride, or his aunts or his cousins. Now, it's not the worst thing in the world that lions can inbreed without too much negative effect. But if it continues for a couple of generations, of course, then it can become problematic. So now, since we're sitting next to the incredible Nkuhumas, and they're a bit flat at the moment, I think it's time for a lion quiz. So, okay. What country in Africa recently discovered an unknown population, and healthy population of lions? Hashtag Safari Live if you know the answer. What country in Africa recently discovered an unknown but healthy population of lions? So, while the lions are sleeping, we can still chat about them. It's nice to see them. Very tired kitties. Now, of course, they can go from very flat to up and about in a second. There's that lovely dead knobthorn tree I was telling you about. Now, what makes the lion population I was talking about in my quiz so spectacular, because there are very, very few unknown lion populations in the world. Everyone has a relatively good idea about where lions are. Oh, Ethiopia. Well done, Heidi, who got that spot on. It is Ethiopia in the Alatash National Park. And they suspected there might be lions, but they'd never been recorded there. And a nice, healthy population of lions was found in that area. So it's quite exciting news. Now, of course, there's a lot of reasons why they possibly haven't been seen. That area is on the border of Sudan, and there's been a lot of turmoil there over the years with civil wars and stuff like that. So it's been a no-go area for a lot of people for many, many years. So that's the reason why that population probably wasn't well known. And it's the Central African lion subspecies, which is one of the more threatened of our lion subspecies. And they estimate the population to be between 100 and 200 lions between Ethiopia and Sudan. So it is a significant number of lions to have not really been known about for an extended period. Now, I think I will spend a little bit more time with our flat cats here. In the meantime, Steve's got something that tries to avoid all forms of cat.
Yes, they do. And how successful have these parents been? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Boom, there it is. How was that for a little bit of jeopardy? Were you feeling a little bit nervous back there, folks, that we had excluded or lost one of the Buffelshoek goslings? We are at Buffelshoek Dam, If you didn't know that before, and those of you joining us for the first time, we have been paying attention to and focusing on this little family of Egyptian geese for the last month now or so, maybe 3 weeks, I forget. But we are making a daily occurrence and trip here, and initially there were 8. Now there are 7, but there have been 7 for some time. They are doing very, very well. James Hendry has had serious doubts of the parenting of this pair of Egyptian geese, and at least it looks like the father has come back from his binge and is back with the family, although a little bit behind. Maybe Mum is a bit annoyed with him still for missing for a number of days, but he is back. He's rejoined the family. He's been away for a golfing weekend or something, I think. But he's definitely seeming a little bit excluded. They're marvelous creatures. And it's actually really quite something to watch them, because we're seeing these goslings change every single day. They're getting bigger. The colors are starting to change. They were just little fluff balls not so long ago, and now slowly but surely they are becoming little adults. And you see them moving through the water with their webbed feet. They are feeding on organic material. And there is an enormous amount of algae growing on this dam, this Buffelshoek waterhole. And a lot of that's got to do with the hippos that are permanent residents here. They bring organic material in, and you get photosynthesis happening, and slowly but surely more algae forms, and the geese are able to actually filter feed that algae out of the water. CNAC for the next few weeks or so, I'd say, probably about a month in total. It's about right for the parents staying with the youngsters. But I've never really spent time with geese from goslings to adults. So it'll be marvelous for us to see and to record this from beginning until end. And I need to go back and check what date it was that we first saw these little balls of down feathers following the mother. I mean, it's since I've been back at work. Tab, do you remember when we first saw them? No, we're going to have to go have a look at the archives and find out exactly when abouts they were hatched, because they are forming quite an important character in our show, as they do a little bit of grooming and preening and bathing in the shallows. There we go, a nice webbed foot to scratch behind the ear. Nothing quite like it, as they do their periodic ground sweeping, as they're feeding there on the grass seeds. Russ and the adults will most likely stay here for some time. This pond is it's big enough to have at least 2, maybe even 3 pairs. But Egyptian geese are pretty territorial for their patch of water. And once their youngsters come of age, they'll probably have to leave and go and fend for themselves and find their own patch of water to sort of look after, and their own mate, because they are a species that's known to sort of pair for life, or until death do us part, should you say. And so I've seen another Egyptian goose here before. It was on its own, and it wasn't well liked by the pair, and they would often chase it off. And whenever you're sitting at water like this and an Egyptian geese pair flies over, you'll see the resident pair get quite sort of loud and sort of vociferous about their approach, and the other pair will not land. They'll rather leave before any confrontation or physical conflict. You see, going through the feathers, cleaning them all up. It's possible there might even be accumulation of algae on the feathers that they're just scooping off right now. A daily, probably a twice daily practice of cleaning and grooming and going through all the feathers, making sure that the oil, see, there we go, it's gone to the backside there, get some of the preen oil. The preen oil is to sort of cover the bottom of the body, like when we do a boat. Oh, we've got an impala just off to the left, Seb. Carol, I have no idea how to tell the difference between the youngsters, male or female. I mean, even in the book, they don't say there's a difference between male and female as adults, even though looking at these two, the one has got a much whiter face than the other one. But the book does not indicate anything in the difference. They say sexes alike. So how you're able to tell male and female from the youngsters would have to be with a very close inspection of their cloaca to see if they're male or female. But I'll have one last look just to make sure that I didn't misread it the other day. It only just says the female is smaller with a slimmer neck and the male is larger with a thicker neck. And the call is what's different. So no, I wouldn't be able to tell you. But what I was saying before is it's very important for them to sort of cover that waterproof coating to the bottom of their body so as to keep them buoyant. Otherwise they won't be floating geese, they'll be sinking ships like the African darter. So the preen oil that they cover their feathers in gives them that buoyancy and that very sort of easily floated ability on the water. Lovely reflections you're getting there, Seb. Okay, well, from our very active and mobile geese, let's go over to the Nkuhumas and see how flat they're able to get.
Well, I don't think you can get pretty much more flat than our Nkuhumas are at the moment. So I think Vim and I are going to move off shortly. We're going to go check the western boundary, see if we can see any sign of Shidulu, because I don't think there's going to be any movement from these lines. They've walked a long way, probably about 15 kilometers overnight. Now, all big cats are opportunists, Juanita, so if something happened to stumble into them while they were sleeping like this, such as buffalo or that herd of kudu, they would definitely, possibly try a hunt. But other than that, I think they're probably going to get moving this afternoon and hunt into the night tonight. I think this afternoon it would be a very good spot to become this afternoon sunset safari. So I'm pretty sure these lions are going to get up and on the move and on the hunt tonight. Okay, sleepy kitties, you have a good day now. We're going to go see what else we can find. So, quite interestingly, unlike male lion coalitions necks, which have a very distinct hierarchy, even though it's constantly changing depending on who's been hurt, who's the most full, who's the most angry. So the male lion hierarchy changes quite a bit. There is not a set hierarchy between the lionesses. So there isn't a set hierarchy between the girls. So they are a cohesive unit for the most part. There will be spats and altercations between them, of course, but those are normally sorted out quite quickly with a bit of loving and aloe grooming between the bride. Okay, we're nearly up the road. As I said, we're going to head on now up towards the west, towards Impala Plains, and see if we find any sign of Shidulu. Now, unfortunately for the bushwalk team, they haven't managed to find any spotted cats, but they have managed to find a lot of what the spotted cats are after.
Well, we have. They're just across there. We've decided to leave them because there are monkeys now shouting their heads off at Chelapan, where we were earlier. And so we're just going to walk down there quickly and see if we can't get a view of them. Well, I mean, not so much of the monkeys, but ideally of what they're shouting at. We're on one of my most favourite game paths, It goes all the way along the valley of the great Mulwamati River here. And it just is it's surrounded by beautiful big trees like these marulas. There they are. And a jackalberry going next to its friend, the marula. And in summer, this is a very beautiful place, and we're going to have to keep our eyes very wide open because we have just found a patty from the buffalo that is around. So we'll have to be very careful as we walk through here. So the thought, of course, there's some more food here, Craig. This stuff's not bad, actually. The thought is that we might be on the trail of some other predator, perhaps a chelapan. These are the sandpaper resin. Not bad. Herbert's going to get upset with me. Here you are, Craig. Do you want one? There you go. A kind of soury, apricot-y flavoured things. That is the sandpaper raisin. And the other thing that you'll see down through here is the tambuti tree, which is the only tree that shows gorgeous autumnal sort of pinks and reds. Sorry, I missed Romit's question there. Do we get any what species here? Oh, cactus, no. As far as I'm aware, there are no indigenous African cactus. There may have been one or two that have been described uniquely from Africa, but we think that they were brought over or somehow came across the sea. We have the ecological equivalent here, of course, called euphorbia, and euphorbia trees look very similar, succulent. They are spiny, just like a cactus is, but they are but they are not the same. And cactuses we do get here, of course, that grow as invasives. We get the prickly pear, which has got a very nice fruit on it, delicious kind of orange fruit. And then we get the queen of the night, which is a horrific thing, which grows all over these areas. They tend to flow down the rivers when the rivers flood into the game reserve areas. There's a beautiful nyala, look at him. He's just astounded that Herbert's walked straight past him and paid him a bio leave. He's just continued on towards where he can hear the monkeys alarming. Isn't that lovely? Beautiful nyala bull. We're going to continue. Otherwise Herbert's going to get deeply upset with me. Not far from Chelapan, actually. It's just down through this next little gully, and then we'll be there. Herbie's looking now. He gets fixated on these sorts of things. He's been walking with what can only be described as a fairly morose gait, because the lions were found by someone else and Tundi disappeared. Now we've got Monkey's alarm calling and he's on the move again. Just over this next hill. Beck's probably about 2 minutes till we get there. So I think, you may as well stay with us unless something else of vital importance is occurring. Okay, so let's come this way. Let's see if Herbert finally finds this morning to joyful life. He's now running in front of us, which is disturbing. Okay. Sorry about the bad signal. We'll keep going.
Sorry about that, folks. Must be so much going on where James is that the signal is just... I apologise. Well, now we are slowly headed into that direction to give him a hand, because as we know, if there is a leopard, because that's what monkeys make a lot of noise for, then they might get a brief sort of look at it, and then we'll need to move in with the vehicle to sort of go and get a proper view. As you've seen, our bushwalks, we do sometimes get quite close to these cats, but you don't get the best look at them. But it's marvellous nonetheless to be on foot with whatever they might be. So we're coming from the north. Good chance, I'm only going to guess this, but it's a good chance it's that Husana scoundrel, or maybe it's Hukumuri, who knows? If it is Hukumuri, he's crossed paths with Tingana last night, or this morning. So wouldn't that be marvelous if we were able to follow them and then get back to the area, and maybe this afternoon get some live interaction between the two big male leopard. But please don't stop your questions and comments, ladies and gentlemen. Hashtag Safari Live, or just drop some comments through. Just drop something on the YouTube stream. Okay, well, it appears as if Brent has left the Nkuhumas. Let's see where he's headed to.
Well, as I said, our plan was to head into the western section, see if we could find any sign of Shidulu. I'm pretty sure Hukumuri is in the north somewhere, but Shidulu loves to zig and zag. So we're just checking Impala Plains now. We're going to check right the way through to around the gate. Now, also, Hukumuri might have been on the move this morning. He might have crossed back in as well. So from the gate, we'll check down to Sydney's again, and then from Sydney's around Aubrey's Road, areas that he has been frequenting over the last while. But so far, no tracks just yet. And this cloud is quite funny, but it is breaking up again. But it caused us to get a bit chilly again. That's just after it was warming up so nicely. Now, talking about lions, and we had a little lion quiz there. Now, I got another lion quiz for you, and that one's too easy. Actually, in what country, since the early 90s, where the last lions were said to have been shot, in what country in the last few years did a random young male lion appear on camera trap? Caught on camera trap. Lions hadn't been seen since 91, 92 in that whole country, and all of a sudden there was a male lion seen in the south of the country. What country was that? Hashtag Safari Live if you know the answer. Always a good spot for lots of different creatures around here. I love these little open seat lines. There's yesterday's leopard tracks here, yes. I'm sure these are from yesterday, Vimpy. Male tracks. So I think this is Hukumuri tracks here. They look pretty good. Now, what I'm trying to do now, because Hukumuri's got a funny foot. Yeah, it is Hukumuri. The back foot. The back right foot. You see he's got a little funny bit there that the claw sticks out on. He must have a wound on his foot. So when you look at that track, the back right, there's a little claw showing, so you can't retract that claw fully. Okay, I'm just going to go check quickly around Impala Plains. Now, FC apparently have a quiz for me, which is why did the lion lose at poker? Sounds more like a bad joke than a quiz. What do you think, Vim? Because the cheetah was cheating. Well done, BMP. That's why the lion lost at poker, because the cheetah was cheating. I said it sounded like a bad joke rather than a quiz. Ha 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 ha, very funny, FC. Now, we are quite close to the western boundary, but he might very easily have stopped for a snooze somewhere around here. So I'm going to check carefully. Oh, Cheryl, unfortunately not. Botswana's lion population has been one of the most stable in the last 50 years, and so the lions have been there all the time and are still there today in big numbers. Oh, here comes taxi. Okomori. I think he went that way. We'll go check the boundary. So, Cheryl, no, that's not the answer to the quiz. Woo, big bump. Tim, Egypt. No, as far as I know, lions are still extinct in Egypt. There's no wild lions in Egypt, as far as I'm aware. And makes quite a lot of sense just due to the civilizations in Egypt and how long they've been there. The hunting pressure on the lions in that area has been heavy for thousands of years rather than hundreds. Let's go have a look on the boundary road. Well, Miss Fuzzy Jordan, again Miss Fuzzy, as far as I know, lions are extinct in Jordan, and Jordan is also not part of Africa. So the only lion population that occurs naturally outside of Africa is in India, in the Gir forest, so not Jordan. Yeah, I'm going to check very carefully along the boundary here. Now, let's go see if those monkeys alarm calling have provided any spots.
No, they haven't. They've just provided distance. An ache in my left buttock. So now I'm having a sleep. It's so relieving and cool to lie here in the sand, a rare pleasure of living out here. That's fair enough, Rebecca. Good point. You make a very good point. Thank you. I should be setting a better example. Rebecca says that it is setting a very poor example to sleep in front of my crew members who are not allowed to do the same. She's speaking, of course, of Craig. The monkeys have stopped alarming. There are a couple of squirrels going, but I think, goodness, they're about as reliable as where the government of Burkina Faso, for example. Here we have what I was talking about earlier. The only tree that provides, I suppose, what we could call northern hemispheric colours of the autumn. It is the tamboti, and it makes beautiful red, pink, gold leaves as the season changes. Isn't that nice? There's not much else nice about this tree. It is, of course, toxic, but I've told you that story before. Right, Steve is in the car around here. He's hoping to perhaps help us, but I think whatever it was has flown away. or run away. Herbert says we must continue down here. He's going to go and look up on the bank. Very frustrating morning. I mean, Herbie is so frustrated because yesterday, of course, they had tracks all over everywhere. Didn't manage to find anything except that recalcitrant buffalo bull. And now the same thing this morning. But we have seen some other interesting things, have we not, Craig? Craig says, which is basically his way of saying, absolutely, it's been a fantastically peaceful and joyous morning. Thank you very much for asking. That's how he says that. Let's have a look what we've got here. As I was talking about earlier, the end of the summer has brought with it the end of the lives of most of the annual species, and that, of course, is a jumping spider, I think, that has created a little nest for its eggs, which will hopefully emulate their parents next season. Nostalgic, isn't it, this time of year? On we go. Ooh, this is a tree we don't see often. This is Acacia robusta, or the splendid thorn. Well, it was acacia, it's now Vachellia robusta. Look at the size of the thorns on this tree. And here is the adult. And you can see it's been kept small by elephants, but I've never seen thorns like I have on this species, Vachellia robusta. There will be spiders living on this tree, and there will, of course, be baboon spiders living in the ground, Samu. And Samu, those baboon spiders, are what we call the equivalent of tarantulas here. I believe they're from a similar family or a related family. And so, yes, in theory, technically, we do have tarantulas. Not quite like the tarantulas you get in the New World, or like the ones in South America that shoot out their hairs and cause great itching on potential predators, but they're very similar. They live under the ground. I've never eaten one. I know people eat tarantulas in South America from time to time, but I've thus far not had to resort to eating any baboon spiders. You wouldn't want to stand on that, Craig. You'd get camera foot. Right, let us go back to the Quizmaster. I'm reminded of a 80s TV show called Telefun Quiz, and I think if I was to compare Brent Lea Smith with Eddie Eckstein, who you can Google him, who used to run Telefun Quiz, I think he might be a little insulted.
James, Eddie Eckstein is about the same height as you, maybe even a bit shorter, and Eddie Eckstein was also very, very chubby. Are you saying I'm getting fat, Henry? Sorry? And they had that weird duck. They had that weird cartoon duck. So this is very much a South African thing, Telefun Quiz. Except I think my quizzes are more fun than the Telefun Quiz. Liam, do you know what country I'm talking about? You can't remember the quiz. The quiz was which African country where lions were extinct since 1991. Suddenly, I think it was 2015-16, a single young male lion appeared on camera trap. Saskia, it is not Niger. There should be still lions in Niger. Not many, a West African lion, but there are a few, if I remember correctly. It's a country that's not normally associated with lions. Now we think Okamuri's somewhere in here. These are not funny, Final Control. They're very cheesy. I don't think I'm even going to dignify saying that. They've got another quiz for me. It's not a quiz, it's a bad joke again. Which is, what is a lion running a coffee machine? Vim? No idea this time. I have no idea. Oh, a copy machine. I thought you said a coffee machine. Okay, that makes more sense. A copycat. Well done, Final Control. Now, wisteria, the lions in Rwanda were actually brought into Akagera, so they didn't appear by themselves. This one naturally occurred. It was not moved by human beings. It appeared out of what was thought to be nowhere. So, and there's a nice, bigger, more interesting story that we'll get into once we get the answer, which I think I might have to give you shortly. White evuate is not Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe, again, another country with a very healthy lion population for the last 40 to 50 years. So lions have been present throughout in Zimbabwe. Oh dear, guys. I didn't think you would struggle this much. Now, I think I'm going to have to give a clue. As I said, I thought I gave a clue when I said it's not a country one would normally think of lions. When you think of the country, you would think of gorillas and chimpanzees and what else? Bongo and mandrills. There you go. That's a big enough clue. You should be able to work it out from there. Well done, Justin. Gabon is correct. Gabon is the country. So in the south of the country, it borders the Congo ROC, Republic of Congo, and that's where Odzala National Park, where we went to have a look at this year already. And there were lions in Odzala. Now, I'm just trying to think, do I have a decent satellite map of that area? No. So there's big, they call them the Ghanaian savannas, but even though it's a bit further, or the Congo Ghanaian savanna. So there's big open grassland savannas that border the rainforest in that area, the northern ROC, southern Gabon. And lions used to be quite prolific in there, feeding off forest buffalo that used to spend a lot more time out in the open. And they've been declared extinct in Odzala, but somewhere in northern Congo there is a population of lions that is no one seems to be able to find, because 2.5-year-old male lions don't just appear out of nowhere. They got to have a mom and they got to have a dad. So somewhere in that area there's obviously a population of lions that is breeding and has produced this lion that arrived in Bateke National Park in Gabon and was picked up on the Aspinall Foundation's camera traps there. And I think one day when I've got time, I want to launch an expedition to look for the lost lions of Gabon and Congo. I think it'll be fascinating. It'll be very, very cool. Now, that is an excellent question, Fern. Did England ever have lions? Now, as far as I know, they didn't. France did, but I don't think England ever had lions. They were on that island there. I know France had lions, Italy, Spain had lions, but I'm not 100% sure if my brain remembers correctly. England didn't ever have lions. I know they had bears and wolves. Maybe you guys can double check for me. Please send that through, #SafariLive. Were there ever any naturally occurring lions in England? Exactly. Rebecca just asked, why is their national animal a lion then? Well, that is a good question. I mean, it could have been, I think, from exploration, from biblical time, from the Knights, Templar, whatnot. They explored all over the place, and they were already the lions then. So I'm not sure. I think they just decided they liked lions. Lions are regal. VM says they like to steal things from other countries, like rugby players at the moment. Yeah, so no, it's an interesting thing. As far as I remember, I know France for a fact had lions, and I think that's the closest to England that lions would have been. But I'm not 100% sure. So please, if you guys can use the Google machine and find out for me whether England ever had lions. I know bears and wolves up in the north, but lions, I'm not sure. Now, of course, there's all sorts of these rumours about those big cats on the moors and stuff from people releasing their pet cats from the 70s. I think that those times are done and they're all gone. Let's see if James knows whether lions ever naturally occurred in England. I don't think so.
I'm going to say no, I don't think they did, because of course there is the small matter of the channel there, and I don't think they ever crossed that. It's an island. Lions were, of course, at one stage the most widely spread mammals in all the world. I don't know if there was ever a land bridge between Britain and the mainland. I don't think there was, but there may have been during one of the ice ages, I suppose, to Calais. If so, it's possible that there were lions there, but if not, then I'm going to say no, there were no lions there. Of course, they were all over Europe, and that's probably... I mean, you read about them in, of course, in biblical times, you read about them in Roman times, Greek times, so there were lions all over that area. I think until about, what was it? I think it was until about 2,000 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, there were lions in Europe. Anyway, the reason I'm holding these is not because they look like lions or are lion-coloured, but they are, of course, the leadwood pods. And there's a huge leadwood behind us, one of the most magnificent examples of a leadwood here. And they are, of course, combretums. So they are very closely related to the russet bush willow, the red bush willow, and the variable bush willow, which, of course, is the most common bush willow species here. But they have the smallest pods. Despite being the biggest example, they grow up to be the biggest pods. And I was talking earlier about how those insects have to produce so many eggs in order to get one to adulthood. It's even worse for plants. You can imagine that this enormous tree came from just one seed like that. And yet all over the ground here, countless thousands of four-winged pods are going to sit and rot and be eaten, and almost none of them. If this tree in its whole life manages to get one tree or one offspring to adulthood, it will have done well, despite the tens of thousands, probably millions of pods that it will create over the years. Isn't that quite amazing? I think it's quite astonishing. Every single one of them is potentially an enormous tree like this, and I'd say 0.00001% of them might actually even germinate. That was me being dramatic. Craig is so deeply unimpressed, I can't tell you. Anyway, we're going to go out onto the road now and see if we can hitch a lift home for breakfast. You go that way. And while we do that, of course, it's probably time that some of you went to sleep, some of you got on with your days, some of you went to set about your weekend chores, whatever they might be. So thank you for joining us on our walk today, frustrating as it was at times. We will, of course, see you this afternoon for Safari Lives, Episode 3, a showcase of the highlights of the lives of our animals here. They will feature mostly the kitty cats and possibly the goslings. Until then, look forward to seeing you later.